This episode of the Big Seance podcast is sponsored by Nuwati Herbals, herbal remedies from Mother Earth. Visit nuwatiherbals.com and use code BIGSEANCE, all one word, to receive 15% off your Nuwati Herbals order as a thank you. Again, that's nuwatiherbals.com, and Nuwati is Nuwati. So what tea will your host be pouring today? Find out a little later. And here's what's coming up on episode 151, the Ghostly Talk podcast.
So I remember looking over and being like, oh, there's another podcast. He's got a really good name. It's a really good logo. I like that font.
It's the reason Ghostly Talk was born, was because we were out in the field doing research. We want to talk about it on the internet.
What's the biggest thing about the paranormal that makes you roll your eyes?
Oh, God.
And that's one that I really roll my eyes
We should
at.
bring back the Sears photo and get Wicker. Babies in the background. We're just going to turn it the opposite
I'm totally
direction.
into that.
Oh
I'm
my
totally into
God.
that idea.
Okay, then that's our Ghostly Talk photo. We're going to just
We're going to do that. We're going to do a Wicker
We'll go
photo.
to Goodwill and we'll find some Wicker.
Welcome to the Big Seance podcast. I'm Patrick Keller of BigSeance.com, and this is a place for an open discussion on all things paranormal, but specifically topics like ghosts and hauntings, paranormal research, spirit communication, psychics and mediums, and life after death. So basically, anything that pops up in my paranormal world. The candles are already lit, so you might as well come on in and join the seance.
In the last month, I have had the honor of being invited onto 3 different podcasts as a guest. At the end of September, I was a guest on the Scareberia podcast. A week ago, I had a return appearance on the podcast Junkies podcast. And just a few days ago, I was a guest on the Ghostly Talk podcast with tonight's guests on my podcast. I'll link you to each one of those interviews in the show notes if you're interested in some more, nerdiness from moi. Well, after my interview on Ghostly Talk, it went so well and it was so much fun that it made perfect sense to double that fun. So I asked Scott and Amber to visit us here in the Parlor today. There's no shortage of belly laughs, and I have to warn you, we take a good, honest look at the paranormal and paranormal investigation, and we weren't afraid to poke fun at ourselves or the paranormal community for that matter. So I truly hope that no one is offended. I think we saw it more as a family therapy session, and it felt good. So stay tuned for that, because first, I have to tell you what I'm drinking. Every tea that I've shared with you from Nuwati Herbals so far has been an herbal tea. Well, we've had the Healer and Eye of the Hawk, and I think those two have probably become my favorites. We've also had Calming the Storm, Laughing Coyote, Share My Blanket, Storyteller, Walk in Balance, Warrior, and Wind Dancer. But this one that I'm drinking right now is a little bit different. It's one of Nuwati's flavored teas, and tonight is the first time that I've tried it. And it's perfect for the cool, rainy autumn weather that we're finally having in my neighborhood this week. It's honey and spice, a rich and comforting blend from Nuwati Herbals that contains black tea leaf, honey granules, chamomile flowers, cinnamon bark chips, fennel seed, honeybush leaf, and more. So help me thank Nuwati Herbals for sponsoring the show by visiting nuwatiherbals.com and ordering some tea. And don't forget, you can get 15% off your order if you use the code BIGSEANCE, all one word. Thanks, Nuwati Herbals. Ghostly Talk is a weekly unscripted talk show exploring the supernatural and whatever else in our world gets us excited and talking. Ghostly Talk began as a weekly paranormal talk show that started broadcasting in February of 2002, which blows my mind. We'll talk about that later. The show ended its first run on October 18th, 2009. The show was originally started as a project between the core hosts of the show, Doug and Scott L., as an outlet to talk about their experiences and adventures studying the paranormal. Does that sound familiar? That's kind of how my show got started. The show, from its very beginnings up until its last broadcast in 2009, was a free production for anyone interested to listen to live or in archive form. When Ghostly Talk stopped in 2009, Doug and Scott L. agreed that no matter what happened in the future, they would continue to make all of the archived shows of Ghostly Talk available for free to the kind listeners, new and old. But after a 7-year hiatus, Ghostly Talk decided to rise from the dead in 2016. I hear that Troy Taylor has something to do with that. I don't know. Current hosts are Scott L., Amber Rose Hammond, and Bonnie Spittler. And so today I have with me Scott and Amber. Welcome to the Big Seance Parlor.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hey, Patrick, how are you?
I am spectacular. And, a little behind the scenes, you guys just had me on your show. And so I have proof that you guys are giant nerds.
Yep. Accurate.
It was so much fun. And I want to thank you for having me on your show.
No, I love doing swap casts. That's what I think that's great. I mean, there's a lot of really great paranormal podcasts out there that we're proud to be friends with. And we love kind of doing the swap cast thing back and forth and just kind of hanging out with each other and having conversations. So yeah, this is super cool. I'm glad we're doing this tonight.
Well, and we met Patrick at Troy Taylor's Haunted America conference. And I gotta admit something, Patrick.
Yes, ma'am.
I know like the first time I saw you there, I was like, oh, there's another podcast here. Wonder what he's like. Wonder who he is. And I don't think we ever really got a chance to talk to you that weekend. And then
I was going to say,
no. And then I finally, like last year, we got a chance to talk to him. But anyway, I got to go back to my confession. So I remember looking over and being like, oh, there's another podcast. He's got a really good name. It's a really good logo. I like that font. And then like I went up, like sauntered by your table and took one of your brochures, and I still have it because I was like, that's a nice brochure. So I was stalking you.
That is all my husband. He is that whole part of the show. He is all about the branding and the marketing and those nerdy things. And so thank God for him. He does not get in the paranormal, but he's very supportive in that way. So he has a lot of cool ideas. If it weren't for that, I'd have like some kind of clip art.
I didn't know. Hey, Patrick, I got to tell you, this is all news to me.
No, that's my confession. That's all I got. I just wanted to tell him.
You're a weirdo.
I know.
No, it's fun to do these things. Like I said before, I like going and talking to my friends' shows and hanging out and goofing around and talking about stuff. Because I mean, we're all doing these podcasts and shows, whatever. I think the majority of them are podcasts now. And one of the things I say to people about, being a broadcaster or a journalist or whatever it is in the paranormal is that one of the more frustrating things I think there is about this is that you're inundated every week with different ideas. And that's really great. It's a good thing. However, it's tough for anybody doing a podcast that puts time into it like we do to really spend a lot of time out in the field doing research like we used to. And the kind of how we got started doing this stuff. It's the reason Ghostly Talk was born was because we were out in the field doing research. We want to talk about it on the internet. Right. However, when you have all the shows there are now, you have a whole pile of people that have a whole bunch of nerdy knowledge. Right. So those, to me, yeah, it's always cool to have guests on your show and talk to people who have, a lot of experience in certain subjects. But to me, it seems like when you put all the podcasters in one room together, that's when you're taking the paint off the walls. Because you have all these people with all this information crammed in their heads from all these shows they've done. That's where the party's at, I think. And that's why
it could probably be a little dangerous when you get them all in one place.
Well, yeah, for many reasons. but really, I think, just having conversations, some of my most interesting conversations I have now in this field are with other podcasters, because again, I think it's the reason of being just all this information is being thrown at you every week or whenever you're doing your show. So you have all this, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, basically. Right. Which makes for a very interesting conversation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you talked about going from doing a lot of investigation and research to kind of moving more to the podcast route. And I think a lot of what I feel is my backstory is kind of in your about page that I just read. It's you kind of just birth a new, I'm just shifting my energy from doing one thing to now doing something else, but yet you're still in the space. And speaking of that space, as a show, you guys have been in the game so long now. And like I said, your show archives go back to 2002, and that's even before the concept of a podcast was a thing.
Yeah.
So where do you feel we are in what I've always called this paranormal craze that I feel like we've been in for about 15 years, in 2019 now, because you've seen a lot of that. That was before I was even interested in the paranormal.
Mm-hmm. I know I proved myself wrong back in 2008, I think. I was asked this question in 2008, and they said, the TV show thing, the hype, the craze, whatever you want to call it, what do you say? I go, 4 or 5 years from now, it's going to be dead as a doornail. We're going to be back to where we were before, just this really weird niche group of people that study this stuff, right? And I was totally wrong, 100% wrong, because that would have been 2013-ish. The TV shows were still growing. I'm still seeing new shows today. And I speak from a side of ignorance on that, because I don't really watch too much. I just kind of get what I get from trailers and stuff I see. But it seems like there's just as many shows out there now, if not more, than there was years ago.
There are, and there's more. And they're also bringing the old ones back. Like Ghost Hunters is coming back.
Yeah. The old guard's stepping in.
Yeah, that's what I think is fascinating, that we've come to that point where it's full circle, and now we're doing reunion shows.
So I don't, it's really tough to tell now. I wish I had a good answer for that. But the way like I said, I thought this would have been kind of a done deal 6-7 years ago. And it seems like the TV show stuff and the media side of things, the entertainment side, let's just be flat out. Let's just say that for real. The entertainment side of what this is, it seems to be stronger than ever. But as I said before, when we talked earlier, the one good thing that comes out of that is I think, a lot of people are exposed to it that way, and they go out and they start doing their own research, which I think is super cool. But I don't see it really slowing down, to be honest with you. I just don't see it slowing down. We kind of, with our show, since we came back, I know I've intentionally, and this is not for any mean reasons at all, but I know I've intentionally just kind of kept myself unplugged from a lot of stuff. Like before, when we were doing the old run of the show, we had our wicks everywhere, all over the place, and we were always talking to people, and we'd hear about all the cool stuff, but we were also hearing about all the more the dramatic stuff, the irritating stuff like that. And that tends to burn on you a little bit. So I know my approach now is to be more or less focused on the show, focused on what research I do, focused on the ideas, and focused on just producing the show. And I don't really look too much outside of that at who's so-and-so and what they're doing as far as, just the paranormal chatter. I guess that's what you want to call it. Right. I just don't, and I don't really pay much attention to that. And that may be to my detriment too. But I'm having the most fun that I've ever had with this thing as a result of that, though, because I'm not bogged down with, all the chatter, let's say, as I was saying before. So I think that's a really interesting component now. That's why, my outlook on that, as I said, is I don't see it slowing down, but I'm probably not the best source to talk to about that either, because I don't really pay much attention to it,
Well, one thing that we talked about on your show just a little bit ago was I was talking about Paranormal Burnout, because I feel like I have kind of a similar story where I was more involved in it hardcore and then kind of pulled back just to kind of be in the space and enjoy it rather than take it so seriously. And there comes a point where people have to realize that you also are different kinds of nerd. You aren't just a paranormal. And sometimes I don't want to talk constantly about the paranormal. Sometimes I want to nerd out on Broadway stuff and, you know, be a Broadway gay and not so much be a part of the paranormal. I think everybody goes in and out of that.
Yeah.
It's true. Even in my talking to people in day-to-day life, a lot of times people will come up to me and be like, so you seen any ghosts lately? And I'm like, oh God.
I want to punch you in the head.
You know, please go away. Or, you know, like just those, and it's all, I mean, they're being nice and everything, but it's just, oh God. Or someone does come up and want to talk ghosts with me, but they're, you know, I was like, oh, I'm at work right now. I'm trying to do this. Okay. Like my favorite, I had at another library I worked at, I had a guy come up. We had been in our local paper for ghost hunting back in the day. And he had read the story, which said library workers by day, ghost hunters by night. Right?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And so, of course, they all came into work. But anyway, this guy comes in and he's like, he comes right up to me and I'm working at the circulation desk there. And he's like, I'm here to find the girl who is a ghost hunter. I have a ghost in my trailer. And I'm like, and I looked at him and I go, she doesn't work here anymore.
Oh, God.
And it was me. And I was like, like he was a scary patron.
And you could probably hear the X-Files theme song following him, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about the burnout thing before, and that's when we decided to put the show on hiatus back in 2009. That was a direct result of that. I mean, and I've said this since then, and I'll say it now. It was me. I was the one that burned out. I totally cooked, and I was the one that said, I can't do this anymore. Guys, you know, if you want to keep doing it, that's fine, but I have to step back. I'm fried. I can't keep doing this thing, which we all, you know, the agreement was like, well, let's, you know, if we want you to be here and if you're not here, we don't want to do it. Right. So that was a very nice, you know, I felt bad, but at the same time, they cared enough about me to say, we're not going to do it without you, man. Right. Now, what made me think about that during that time when the whole end was coming, that was right around Halloween. Right. And I remember this vividly. Some people where I lived at the time, this lady had her daughter and she's like, yeah, my daughter's going to do some Halloween stuff at the church. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And she's like, well, yeah, they're actually going to go to a cemetery and do a ghost hunt. And this lady didn't know anything about what I did, like the podcast or any research I did. And, you know, you'd think right there, I would just light up and be like, well, hell, I can tell you all kinds of crazy stuff. But instead what I did was I'm like, oh, well, have fun. And I just walked away because, you know, at that point, I was anybody that brought up the paranormal around me, I found myself spending the next 3 hours explaining to them why what, you know, they saw on Paranormal State was not how it really worked. And I would explain to them in depth about really worked and what really was to be out there in the field. And I would spend hours at a time doing this and blowing my voice out and wearing myself out. Right. And I just, you know, that was a situation where I was like, okay, if I say something, I'm going to spend the next 3 hours doing this and I'm tired of it. I can't keep doing this. And I knew when that situation happened, I knew something was about to change because I was starting to burn out really hard. Right. And I think that's when you know it. That's when I knew it, at least, is that burnout thing you were talking about.
Well, since we're, you know, having therapy here, paranormal therapy.
Is this therapy? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, can't you see the couch where, you know, we're sitting here? And since we're being honest, I would love to know from each of you, what's the biggest thing about the paranormal that makes you roll your eyes?
Oh, God.
We already talked about it.
What did you talk about?
TV shows.
Well,
they do, but
yeah.
But I think they have their uses though too.
It inspires a lot of people.
Yeah, they do. They totally do.
If you're an intelligent person and you start to learn more in this field, then you'll realize quickly what is wrong in the shows and what is right. And so I think to the right person, they're an inspiration. And to the person that just doesn't have the ability to go beyond those shows, then it's like, okay, well, that's what they're going to think. Fine.
And for some people, it's going to be just pure entertainment. That's what they get out of it.
For sure.
Well, I think people need to get that. Like I said before, I said, let's just call it what it is. It's entertainment. I mean, and if you have that mindset, it's super cool.
And right? I don't even want to put down the shows. I think just sometimes the sheer ignorance I find in this field, such as like the current craze that seems to have taken over the past 2 years of everything's a demon.
Yes.
and that kind of stuff. And then you hear
That's
about
just scary.
actual paranormal teams, which I know we've talked about on our show before, and maybe you have too, Patrick, but actual people going into people's homes, their safe place, saying you have a demon in the corner, and I don't know, and then leaving the house.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that to someone's psyche. That's their place. So the kind of ignorance that I see and hear about, that gets frustrating because it doesn't seem to go away.
Right.
And I don't know how you fix it.
That's something to be said, to Amber's point. I don't think, and this is not for the vast majority, but I think there are people that have started up groups and associations and things and went out there to do this research. And as Amber said, they go in people's homes. And I don't think that some people really understand the gravity of, the situation they're in. You're dealing with someone's life. You're dealing with, their home. The most important thing in most people's lives is their home, right? And to walk into someone's house when they think that, most people that want to have, a team come in and look at their house, they have a sneaking suspicion, right? It's a cute sneaking suspicion. I think I may have a little spirit walking around here. I don't know, right? And then you may have people come in there and go, well, yeah, we came in here and did this, and you definitely have a third level demonic, manifestation going on in your house, and you scare the living hell out of people, right? And it's happened to people. There's people that have actually gotten so scared as a result of this programming they've went through that they are afraid to be in their own house then, and that really shouldn't be the case, I think. So that's one of those things that I do. I have rolled my eyes at in the past too, and the Brost Hunters. I just thought of that. I just made that up a minute ago when we were talking about this. The Brost Hunters.
The Brost Hunters.
Brost Hunters. Well, Ghost Hunter, Ghost Hunters.
I'm thinking like a nice broast.
But
like a
food. Yeah, because I was thinking about food. A Brost Hunter. No, I mean, okay, maybe that's a bad way to put it. But, the Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
And I'm going to probably get beat up by one of them now next time I see one. But
nuh-uh, because you're doing CrossFit now.
Yeah, I'm so sore. I can't move. But there is a new element I've noticed that, they wear like the affliction shirts and the really like those jeans that have all the sequins on them and stuff.
I can tell you where that came from.
Where'd it come from?
That came from Ghost Adventure.
I was just going to say that.
That's Zach Bagans' influence.
It shows you how disconnected I am. I don't know where the hell's going on.
Zach Bagans' influence. Yep.
Yeah. So I've noticed that. And to be quite honest, I've talked to a couple people in that genre, I guess. What the hell it is.
Well, they wouldn't call it that.
They're all right dudes.
Not a lot of them are very nice.
But they're wearing like the affliction shirt. It's like, dude.
Well, it's a fake affliction shirt.
Like what planet are you on that's still cool? It never really was to me, but I mean, I guess it's just my personal taste. But I guess the Brost Hunter thing, that's a terrible way to say it, isn't it?
Just Bro Hunter, not Bro Hunter.
A Bro Hunter?
I don't know. Don't do the broast. I'm thinking chicken.
Now you're hungry.
I was going to say, that sounds like a meal.
The Bro Hunter thing kind of cracks me up too. I mean, I'm sure they're wonderful, nice people, but that's one thing I've kind of seen that. And I'm like, I didn't know weightlifting. I didn't know you had to like bench press 250 pounds to be in this field.
That's how you fight ghosts.
That's how you come at you. Fight ghosts, bro. I don't know, man. So,
hey, since you were honest, I'll throw it in there too. And I totally get what you're saying. And I appreciate the honesty because, and my listeners have heard me say this before. And I sometimes wonder if I'm going to get beat up one of these days, but I will. One of the biggest things about this culture that really bugs me is and I don't think, maybe I don't see it as much anymore, and it's kind of modeled after some of the shows. It's like rednecks who jump in a truck. They're all in black t-shirts, and the lead guy is always going to, be this big old dude who just like, he's like, well, and I've got this. And I'm like, why are you the leader? Why is it always a big redneck dude? Like what about this guy says
he's got
expert?
The truck.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I'm like, are you reading books in your free time? Like, have you done any, you know what I'm saying? And I judge that. And I hate the whole, just kind of hicks out in black t-shirts saying they're experts. And then I have to be fully honest and transparent because I look back at my team and we have a team picture where we're all peeking out of corn stalks in a cornfield. And so like, that's that bipolar part of me that I'm like, oh my God, I judge it so much.
Yeah. I think
We had matching T-shirts at one point too. Like,
but
I'm not talking. No. I don't mean ghostly talk, but like my first ghost group I was part of, we had matching T-shirts, and so like
my thing. Okay, this is great because like
honesty, it's great, man.
So here, this is going to span off of what you just said, Patrick. I have seen that, and I don't really care if, there's probably a line to Nebraska of people that don't like me and don't like what I represent, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But the other one I've seen that is along them lines is the ghost hunting groups that, of course, they're in the matching T-shirts most of the time. I've seen some that don't have matching T-shirts, but they look like a rock. They look like they're getting ready like a rock band. Like they think they're a rock band, and none of them smile.
Stepping on stage.
Now, look, I play in a band. I play in a metal band, so I know the whole game with that. All right, and I make fun of it just as much as I do that. I emulate the same thing. And we do band photos for my band. We all sit there and look as menacing as we can, right? But the ghost hunter thing, it kind of cracks me up because I've seen a lot of ghost hunting teams. They do the same thing now. Maybe I'm being a bit hypocritical by saying that because I do it with my band, but I'm like, that's the band. That's what bands do, man.
Right. That's the place you're supposed to be.
Yeah. But I've seen a lot of the ghost hunting groups where, they sit there and they or even to the point where, cool band photos I've seen is, you got guys that are looking off into the other, they're not looking at the camera. Like that's a typical like band thing, right? You're looking off somewhere else and maybe you're looking down the ground like you're depressed or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's like a band photo. That's the bottom line. And that's one that I really roll my eyes at.
We should bring back the Sears photo and get Wicker. Ladies in the background. We're just going to turn it the opposite.
I'm totally into that. I'm totally into that idea.
Okay, then that's our ghostly talk photo. We're going to do
we're going to do that. We're going to do a Wicker
We'll
photo.
go to Goodwill and we'll find some Wicker.
And have a black turtleneck and just like one chain.
one cheap chain.
Yeah.
Not real
the
gold.
turtleneck with the chain, and I gotta get the spike with the mullet on the back. The spike with the mullet that was a big thing back in the time too. I had one.
I don't even think we need to do our hair. That will be part of the mystery. Like it will look really updated yet not.
Well, if we're going Wicker, Amber, I can't picture your hair right now, but you need to just like part it down the middle, do the whole 70s. Part it down the middle with your hair. It's already there.
Yep.
Okay. That's just what I picture with the black turtleneck and the necklace. I picture all, my parents' yearbooks with all of the women that had just the hair parted down the middle and
Yeah. But that just kind of, to me, that whole rock band thing, that just kind of goes into the whole entertainment side of it though, too, I think. And I think, you'll have people that have like they have a shtick. I've seen this too. Like, this is, I don't know. I mean, I've seen people that have a shtick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. They have their own theme of what, like this is our thing or whatever. And I'm like, dude, this is just a bunch of dorks trying to figure stuff out. And I get the entertainment thing. I do get that. But, when I hear that same element sit there and tell me like, we're here to help people. We have a job to do and we're here to help people. I'm like, you just pushed out 3 pilots to like 3 different networks. Okay. You're not trying to help anybody. Let's be honest here. You're not trying to help anyone. You want to have a TV show, and that's great. If you want to be an entertainer, that's fine. Just say you're trying to be an entertainer. Don't try to wash it over with this thing like, well, we really care about this community, and we care about things. We care about helping people. Maybe I'm sounding a bit crude now, but I don't think they are. They want to have a TV show, and that's cool. If that's what your goal is, that's great.
Well, now you can just start one on YouTube.
Just be honest.
Because like now, like back in the day, you did need the help of a network, and now you don't. Just go do your own thing.
Yeah. So, all right, I really feel bad now. Probably just down about 300,000 people, but that's okay.
Well, you're doing CrossFit. I'm just going to straight up get beaten up in my chair or whatever. But I will tell you in all seriousness, I'm glad that there are teams out there. And I hope to God that enough of them are really good and know their stuff and research and are empathetic, because I do have, we only investigated for like 3 or 4 years, but I myself was called 2 or 3 times where the person on the other end of the line is crying, or like, it's not that whole, oh, hey, I think my house is haunted, come check it out, where they're legit wanting some help and they need some answers. And that kind of attributed to my burnout on the paranormal investigation side, because I'm kind of an introvert.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I know I'm not a therapist or a psychotherapist. And that that was tough to see. And there are a couple of situations that I walked in on where I'm like, this family needs more than a paranormal investigator right now.
Yeah, they need a therapist.
So I couldn't do that anymore. So I am glad that there are people out there who, are not looking for their next paranormal TV show, that are just there to help. Because I do think that there are still people out there that need it, because they're not interested in it. They're not passionate in the paranormal. Paranormal happened to them. And they need somebody to answer.
To them.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, and that point, there's some amazing teams.
Yeah.
Even here, like Grimstone Inc., one of our dear friends, Chris Bailey.
Yeah, they're one of the oldest teams in Michigan.
Yeah, and they're brilliant. They're brilliant people.
Solid, smart, intelligent people. And I know that there's a lot of teams that do also employ the help of a counselor, or they're able to send you to a good one if they recognize that this is a little bit maybe beyond the paranormal. There's something else going on here mentally with the family. Yeah.
MPI is another group, and they do a lot of outward. They do.
And I don't think though they really do any paranormal stuff anymore.
They've stepped back from that. They're not as active within the community, but they're doing more outreach stuff. They're doing the historical stuff with the U.S.
Yeah, and that's the other thing
that's a great thing too.
And I think the rise of these paranormal teams starting around like 2000. They've created a huge awareness of local history that wasn't there before.
And that's great.
With local ghost tours and like small little towns having their fall ghost tour through their downtown and bringing up the history about some building that everybody forgot. But then these guys came in and looked it up.
Yeah. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So, we're goofing around a little bit here, but even maybe some of the culprits from the, that we were kind of pointing the finger at a little bit, they're doing some of that stuff. And that's really great. That's fantastic. And I take my hat off to people like that. But there's just all them little things you kind of, like you said, you kind of roll your eyes at. It's definitely a different landscape than it was. I mean, almost 20 years ago now. It really is a different model that I see out there than it was in 2000, like 1999, 2000. It was really just people on Yahoo chat boards going, really, we're going to go to a cemetery? This is weird. What? We're going to try this? And we were all really like, this is the weirdest crap we've ever done, And it was just people that had an interest in this stuff. And really, we were all the first couple of times I went out and did stuff, even before, even like 97, 98. I mean, the people I was with, we were all just a bunch of geeks. I don't know any other way to say it. And I mean that in a loving way too. We were just a bunch of geeks out there trying to figure out something that we didn't quite understand. It's way different than it was back then.
I could totally nerd out on this history of, paranormal investigation and all of that all day long. But I do want to ask, because I know that there's probably people who have not heard of your show. And so what are some of your favorite topics or memorable guests that you've had? I mean, you've got plenty of shows to choose from, but what are some of your favorites?
You want to go back to the Wayback Machine type thing. We had people that stuck out. I never really say I ever had a favorite show. There were shows that did stick out. There was a couple, and I've actually tried to contact them to have them come on the new show we're doing now. They were named Mick and Sylvie Avery, and they used to channel this gentleman named Gregory. And I mean, it was all on the phone. I don't know what was happening, but it was quite interesting how Mick would channel this person who was a spirit, they said, who over many years Mick worked with Gregory, and Gregory worked with Mick to the point where Gregory was able to take over his body, or not really take over his body, but kind of push Mick aside and let Gregory step in and talk through him. And I mean, either Mick was a very, very, very good method actor, or he was really being, I hate to use this term, but being possessed by someone, sort of, because his entire mannerism, everything changed, even his breathing changed. And everything about him, at least what I could hear was totally different. And Doug and I were pretty fascinated talking to that guy, that couple, about this guy Gregory, who, I mean, I'd have to go back and listen, but he died like in the 1800s, and he's been this spirit that they've worked with for many years. And he was just super cool. Those people, we had him on a handful of times. We just thought they were really interesting to talk to and channel Gregory and have conversations with him. So that's one that always stuck out, has always stuck out with me over the years.
What about you, Amber?
I'm trying to think of like a particular show from back in the day. It's kind of hard because a lot of these people that Scott and Doug, the original co-host, used to talk to, I was like, kind of like, I idolized, like Rosemary Ellen Guiley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, you're talking. This was before because I met Scott because of Ghostly Talk. And now it's been 14 years later.
Yeah.
And so, why did you say it like that?
Yeah.
Why did you say it like that?
I'm just goofing with you. I'm goofing with you.
You're going to be a fight on Patrick's show. And so so there'd be people like that, or like John Zaffis, before really they were household names.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of an introverted extrovert myself. So when they would do the show, I would never really want to be on it. And there was one time where I think Doug was gone or something, and you're like, just sit down, be on the show. Mm-hmm. You'll be fine. No one's going to hurt you. And it was Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Oh, yeah.
And he was
before he became a meme.
Yeah, he was just the editor of Legendary Times, and that was it.
Yeah.
And he looked like cool. Indiana Jones to us. So I remember we were giggling. Like I was a little nervous to talk to him just because I thought like, oh, I don't know, it's some cool guy out there. And I don't know, I'm just me. But I remember he was not digging, but he was like, we took a break and Bonnie and I.
Yeah, Bonnie started hitting on him.
No, she didn't hit on him. She thought he was cute. But
she was hitting on him.
No, she wasn't hitting on him. We heard what sounded like digging. And I remember we joked and thought like he's got to go like out back and dig for his water because that's what he does, because he's a real adventurer. And then later on he became like one of the biggest alien memes out there, and he's on Ancient Aliens. And
yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of cool to have the show be that old and have these people on before they were, I guess, somebody. They were somebody then. But
we were really lucky to
everybody.
talk. No, and I consider us really lucky to have had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people like that, and have some really cool conversations with those people and have a lot of fun. Some other, more goofy standouts for me was, I got to say Dee Snider. We had Dee Snider on this show from Twisted Sister. That was a mind blower, like how he agreed to come and talk to us. And we talked about some really interesting stuff. It was super cool. But we actually were able to talk to some, I think everybody has a story. No matter what walk of life you're in, whether you're an active member of the paranormal community or not, I think everybody has a story. And even people I know that are like, I don't believe in any of that stuff, but there was this one time.
Yeah, then they got a story.
Right? So we were lucky enough to even have some, I guess you call them celebrity type people on there, or at least people that we looked up to. Henry Rollins, Dee Snider was on. Sid Haig, we had him on a handful of times also, and he just passed away recently, unfortunately. But we had those people on, and we got to talk about really interesting, neat stuff with people that we really did idolize. I mean, not only people we idolized within the paranormal community, but people we idolized with, within art, movies, music and stuff like that we're into also. So there was we had a lot of really neat stuff we were able to do with the show then and we're doing now. So, there's a lot of standouts. I call them standouts though. I can't say I really have a favorite because I don't really listen to my show anymore. I don't listen to it here. I can't stand listening to myself.
Well, I can tell you right now that you've given me some homework because you rattled off quite a few names that I'm not really familiar with. So thank you for that.
Just go to the archives.
Yep, there you go.
Go to Google.
There's a list right there for everything.
Google.
It's all for you, man.
Well, we know each other, even though, we've, like you guys said earlier, I don't think we ever really sat down and had a conversation. I saw you guys all over the place, and you guys at the Haunted America conference are often hosting like some of the what do they call that, open speaker? Yeah,
we did typically they put me in front of everybody for that,
and then I run away,
and then Amber runs away. It's the panel discussion with all the speakers, and that's kind of what Troy likes us to do for him, and we're happy to do it. It's an honor to go to there every year and have Troy invite us.
That's how we get our room.
No, it's just an honor to have Troy invite us. He's a dear friend of ours, and he's another one of those guys. The first time we ever had him on the show,
I was so nervous.
We were blown away. We're like, we got Troy Taylor on our show.
What?
We got all his books and all this stuff.
And he looked like he was 12 then.
Yeah, he looks a lot different now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's changed a bit.
Yeah.
See, I'll be totally honest about that too. At the conference the last 2 years, because they put us next to Troy's podcast, which is, American Hauntings podcast. And with Cody, who I've taught Cody how to day drink now.
Oh, God.
Oh, good.
So that's like, we kind of sit there. I know like the last 2 years, we've both just kind of been plat down in the seat, recording all day long with either a beer or a shot of, like a little thumb of whiskey we're sipping on all day long.
No distractions at all.
No, exactly. Because you do that for like 4 hours, like in the afternoon. Like, yeah, you're just totally, you're seeing through time. It's great, So that's probably why we didn't get a chance to sit down, because I didn't really ever get up during the day. I just kind of sat there in my seat, only to get up and run to the bar and grab something and come back. So I apologize about that. We're going to change that this coming year.
Well, now we're, Ghostly Talk and Big Seance family. So, and
Absolutely.
we've connected, so we will have to talk more when we get to the conference. But shout out to Troy Taylor for his Haunted America conference.
That's our favorite conference.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to chat with you about some of your other travels and conferences, because I know that you guys have been to quite a few of them. And really, the Haunted America conference is the biggest one I've been to. And so what other stuff's out there?
We used to go to conferences in Chicago.
We were road dogs back in the day.
Oh my God, that's part of the reason we were burned out. Yeah. We would go down to
every weekend we were on the road.
Kentucky. We've been out to that wasn't a conference out in Arkansas. Oh, the Arkansas one was the best, because we're in Michigan, and Michigan just sucks in the winter. And when you go down south in March, it's like actual spring. Flowers are coming up. It's not just snow still. And so we went down there and we went to, what's that haunted hotel? The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. And it was like 70 degrees. It
was bizarre.
Oh, it was so perfect. It was this beautiful old haunted hotel. It was so cool. And we kind of had like run of the place at night. Like everybody was everywhere. The Booth brothers were there filming a video, one of their movies. Yeah. Rosemary Ellen Guiley was there. Troy Taylor. John Zaffis. There was just like a cool group of people.
It was all of our buddies. And it's a fun weekend. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we quit doing the show, and then they started doing conferences in Michigan. Yeah. As soon as like we walk away, and we're like, really? Because we were always like, why doesn't this stuff ever happen in our own state?
For years we were asked to do we should do people kept saying like, let's do a Ghostly Talk conference. And I would say the same thing to people over and over again when that was brought to us. And I'd say, I'll do it under 3 conditions. And my 3 conditions simply were, I want $20,000 cash out of somebody else's pocket, not mine. And number 2, I want 3 people who will do exactly what I say, when I say, how I say it. And number 3, I want the chance to walk away clean if this thing falls apart. You know what I mean? So that's kind of an impossible scenario to set up for anybody to do something like that. And yeah, there are some really interesting conferences. We just came back from the Michigan, the one up in the
UFO Contact was up in Houghton Lake.
Yeah. Michigan UFO Contact. Yeah. Well, yeah, Michigan UFO Contact. That's a UFO conference. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's awesome. It's really great. Yeah.
UFO people are sometimes they're a little different than your average ghost paranormal side.
Yes, they are.
But they're just cool.
There's a lot of bleed over though.
There's a ton, and there's more and more happening all the time. But I just kind of like that crowd more right now. Yeah. And then there's a giant conference up in Michigan's UP in Sault Ste. Marie, which is now like one of the biggest paranormal conferences in the Midwest. Yeah. Like 1,000 people show up to this thing.
And it's at a casino.
It's literally like 5 hours away. That's it. We don't have to drive out of our state. But yes, it is at a casino. So really, if you ever go to that and hope to talk to us, you're going to have to go around the casino and look for us, because I'll be at a seat.
Yeah. Most likely going to be at the Monopoly machine next year.
Scott
again.
Found his love of the Monopoly machine. I just look for machine. Wonder Woman. Yeah, that's where I'll be. Yeah, the Wonder Woman machine. Or the 4D Ghostbusters machine I discovered this year. It was awesome. So while we should be going there to learn and talk to each other and get educated.
No, we're down beers in the casino.
But you know what? A lot of these conferences end up being like family reunions. This is the time when you see all of your little paranormal buddies and friends that live from out of state or too far away from you to call up for a play date every day. And so it's fun to go back and do these things every year.
Troy's conference, though, as I said, is by far will always be my favorite conference, because the camaraderie you feel.
Everyone's been going there for so long.
Well, yeah, and it's the same. It's a lot of the same people that go there every year. I see the same people that come every year, and it's a camaraderie you have with people. Troy has created that. It's a community of people that work with Troy, that read Troy's books, and as you know, Troy makes himself 1,000,000% accessible the entire weekend. So that's why you see Troy running around, and people love him, and we love him just the same. And I think he's just, as far as just who he is in the field, Troy's one of those guys who just kind of has kept it where he wants to keep it at. He said it to us on our show here. He's like, I don't want to make the thing bigger. He's like, I sell a certain amount of tickets and we stop it there and that's it. And we do just fine doing that. We don't have to make the thing grow and grow and grow every year until we have 10,000 people in some giant expo center. He's like, we like it the way it is. It's small. We all know each other. We all have a great time and we can keep doing it financially every year. And they do just fine. Right?
Yeah, they're not going to bankrupt themselves by trying to go too big. So.
That to me is, I know for a fact, in my opinion, Troy could have taken that thing and really blown it up like a lot of these conferences have, and have a couple thousand people show up. But he didn't choose that road. And to me, that speaks volumes about his character. And that's why we love the guy so much.
Yeah. And you said, Amber, family reunion. And that's exactly how I would always describe it. And I think I've only been for 4 years, the last 4 years. And when I finally went, and I don't know what the hell was going on in my brain and why I didn't go before, but I was like, where have I been? Why didn't I go to this thing before now? Because I feel like I've missed a lot, but I'll never not go now. It is a family reunion. And you see people like Barb Heiser, who I know you guys have had on your show too.
Oh, fantastic.
Love Barb, and just some of the same, and even the new faces too. And I feel like every time I go, I meet more listeners of my show who I've never got to meet, but everybody wants to tell you their story at these places. And it's really cool. And that's why sometimes I have my microphone and I just shove it in people's faces when they walk by.
I also probably didn't see you this year, because this year I got myself lost in the woods of Missouri.
Oh yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, I decided to go hiking.
In that major, Patrick, do you remember that huge storm that blew through this year?
Yes.
Yeah, well, Scott was out in the woods somewhere walking.
Okay, well, I'll keep it brief.
Getting bit by a tick.
I have a thing for monster trucks. I have a monster truck like addiction. Like, it's like one of my nerd habits. I just like monster trucks. I think they're really cool. And Pacific, Missouri is home to Bigfoot 4x4, which is the original monster truck, the first one that was ever built in like 1974. So I decided to do a detour this year on my own, and I drove down to Pacific, Missouri to go to the facility and meet the people that built that truck, right? To me, that was like meeting celebrities. It blew my mind. And I decided to go hiking after that.
Scott was like, oh.
I literally was. I came, so I decided after that, I'm like, well, I'm going to come back to Alton, and there was a state park by Alton I was going to go to, and just, get a couple miles in, just to, burn off the beer we drank the night before, so I'd feel better, right? And I found a nature preserve not too far from Pacific, Missouri, and I decided to go there. And yeah, long story short, kind of got backwards with the map. My compass failed because it was on my phone, and then the thunderstorm came through, and I pretty much got wet to the bone. I mean, I was so wet that I don't think I've ever been that wet before, to be honest. It was like the worst thing I ever had dealt with. I ended up getting myself out of the trails. And meanwhile, Amber was texting me going, where the heck are you at? When I finally got a signal, I'm like, yeah, I'm on a hike right now, but I'm a little turned around and it's raining right now. And she's like, so you got lost in the woods during a thunderstorm.
Well, yeah. And then Bonnie and I go to start setting up the table, and everyone's like, oh, where's Scott? Hey, where's Scott? And I'm like, he's in the woods. And they're like, what, in the storm? I'm like, yeah. They're like, are you worried? I'm like, he'll figure it out.
I'm picturing Scott pull out the phone, pull in like the Blair Witch Project video, like,
yeah.
I don't know where I'm at.
I actually felt that way for a couple minutes. I mean, it was getting to a point where I could not find a trailhead. Like, I got turned around so bad, I couldn't find a trailhead. And I'm like, okay, this is getting serious here. Like, I don't know where I'm at, and I could be stuck. If it gets dark out here, I'm a goner. I mean, and there's like snakes out there. There's like serious snakes out there. There's like copperheads and stuff. Like, you can get bit by those. It's like, it's not a joke. But I was able to get out, and I came out 3 miles out of my way. I had to walk a 2-lane road with no shoulders back to my car for 3 miles. And I finally got back to the car. So that was one of the reasons you probably didn't see me either, is because I was busy getting myself nearly killed in the woods. And the cherry on top for that also, just so you know, you'll get a laugh out of this too. I came home About a week later, I look at my leg and I have a red spot on my leg. And I'm like, that is a tick bite. It's definitely a tick bite.
Welcome to Missouri.
Yeah, which blew up into that bullseye thing they talk about, which I got put on antibiotics right away, and I got doped up on antibiotics, and I was able to get it blown out of my system. And it all ended well, but that was kind of like a month-long ordeal I had to deal with as a result of getting lost in the woods of the fine state of Missouri. Remind me not to do that again next year. I won't do that.
Come on back. Come visit us again soon.
No, I'm staying at the hotel.
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave the hotel.
And we'll just put you on the treadmill in that tiny little workout room, and you'll be fine.
It's a lot safer. There's no snakes or ticks or anything like that.
Well, I'll tell you, I remember that storm because I was driving through it. I didn't stay at the hotel the night before. I'm only an hour away, so I was driving. That it was in the early afternoon or late morning, right? I mean, I was driving. It was a mess.
That was like an afternoon.
Yeah. It's the sky when I was in those
bad.
When I was in those woods, it literally everything. I mean, I'm walking along, and then 1 minute, like the leaves are blowing. I hear animals chirping. I hear activity around me, and then in a split second, everything just went still. It was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen.
Well, Bonnie and I from the fourth floor of the hotel saw trash drive blow by, so that's a serious storm. Trash flies by.
But everything just went dead still in the woods, and then I looked above me, and the sky was black, and I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die out here.
Yeah, that's when you record your last message and send it.
Yeah, that's the Blair Witch message.
Yep.
Yeah, Missouri, fine state out there. They nearly took my leg. Great.
I'm sorry, Mom. Well, it was so fun talking to you guys. I don't know why we haven't done this sooner, and I'm excited, right? Like I said, to see you all again this summer and connect.
Yes.
But go ahead and tell us where we can. Well, any final thoughts you have, but then where people can find you, and anything else that you want to shamelessly promote before we peace out.
You can find us anywhere. Pretty much any podcast app has us.
We're all around you.
We're everywhere.
We're like the wind.
Yeah. We're like the wind. What song is that? Is that Patrick Swayze? What movie was that from?
I think it was Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, it was Patrick Swayze. He sung that.
Not Roadhouse, is it?
No. I forget. Anyway, where's this going? Anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, go to any podcast app, search Ghostly Talk. You'll find us. You can go to our website if you don't want to use apps, and you can just stream or download directly from our website.
Ghostlytalk.com.
Yeah, ghostlytalk.com. And if you do use an app, feel free to give us a like, subscribe, and a positive comment.
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram and all that.
We tried. We're not the best social media people. It's not exciting.
No,
well, you make up for it in content.
Okay,
we
good.
probably don't have the highest engagement rate.
No, we don't, because if we try, Facebook's like, you got to pay to boost this.
And on that.
Yeah, no.
No way, man.
You can keep that Facebook.
Keep it. Yeah, keep your boost, Facebook.
Yeah.
We don't need it, dude.
Nope.
I love you guys. I'm so glad we did this. You rock. Thank you to the following super Paranerds who support the show at patreon.com/Big Seance. Anne Marie Sullivan, Justin J. Justin, Bliss is my muse, David Rubenstein, Genesis, Natalie, Sonia B, Kim Rob, Jim Budd, Josiel Lorenzo, Susan Davey, Paula Mitchell, and Amy Park Gedicke. My supporters at the Parlor guest level, who can be found at bigseance.com/Parlor guests, are Linda of shimmeringmoons.com, Denise Sia of Mystic Moms Paranormal, Diane Rax, James Wilfong, Glenna Becker, Nettie, Joni Kuntz, Sylvie, Jeffrey Peck, Dina DeCastro of Dina DeCastro Astrology, Peggy Hagen, Sharon, Marion Hover Clairvoyant, Bruce Williams, Christopher Kohler, Lena and John of Carbon Lilies, Anna Frias, and Norman and Linda Keller. sound you just heard was the above and beyond. There's not even a category for your level of support fireworks display, because this week I have another awesome listener who has joined a group of listeners who support the show at the $10 level. Yep, we're up to 4 in this group right now. Joining Steve Skinner, Jackie Pacheco, and Kevin Gilbert for the fireworks is AJ Meredith. So thank you, Jackie, Steve, Kevin, and AJ. And thank you, Paranerds.
For show notes, including links to anything we may have mentioned in this episode, visit bigseance.com. You can find and subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and just about anywhere podcasts are found. Do you have any comments or feedback? Go to bigseance.com/feedback to learn how to get your voice in a future show. Or you can call my feedback line, 7755-TELL-ME. That's 775-583-5563. Interested in learning how to promote and share the podcast? Go to bigseance.com/share. Thank you so much for listening. Unfortunately, it's time to blow the candles out, but we'll see you and light them again next time.